And back to Syria now. Over 24 former American intelligence officials have signed a memorandum urging Donald Trump to rethink his Syria policy and to de-escalate tensions between Moscow and Washington. Well, now joined live again by one of the document signatories, former U.S. diplomat Brady Kisling. Mr. Kisling, thanks so much again for joining us. Well, let's pick up where we left off. And you made an emphasis on the importance of cooperation, international cooperation, that is. So both Trump and Putin say relations have hit a new low. So if nothing improves, what are the dangers of that?
The first danger is that the international community can succeed in imposing a little bit of peace and order on the planet if Russia, the United States, China work together. If they are sabotaging each other for domestic political reasons, then the whole world becomes more dangerous. I'm not going to point fingers. President Putin obviously has much more experience in this field than President Trump. Trump will have to learn the steps, the rules of the game. That said, we need a breathing spell to, meanwhile, let the diplomats do things slowly for a while to allow wiser heads to prevail.
Well, during today's meeting in Moscow, Russian, Iranian, and Syrian foreign ministers suggested the West trying to hamper the investigation into the alleged Syrian chemical attack. What are your thoughts on this? Is that actually plausible?
I think that the United States at the moment does not have the necessary confidence in the United Nations, and a lot of that is ideological, some of that is legitimate. Restoring confidence in the UN means all of the countries, all of the permanent 5 members working very closely together, sending their best people, doing research that lets the chips fall where they may. That is to say, if it was President Assad responsible for the gas attack, the UN should say so. If it was someone else, the UN should say so. But we need absolute confidence that the process is not being tampered with, and that confidence doesn't exist at the moment.
Well, the U.S. hasn't ruled out the possibility of further action in Syria. So how do you see the situation developing in the near future? Do you expect to see more, or could we see a repeat of Iraq 2003, remember, with chemical weapons, the pretext for a ground invasion? So what are your thoughts for the near future?
I think there's no prospect of an Iraq-style intervention. It would be insane. The United States does not have the resources. There is not a strategic goal that could be implemented by military means. The missile attack against the airfield was a symbolic blow, essentially to say if gas weapons are used, there will be disproportionate retaliation. Now the goal is to stabilize the situation on the ground, make sure no gas attacks occur, find out who was genuinely responsible for them, make sure that person, whoever it is, gets punished.
Well, going back to what you said about the importance of diplomacy and talks and just going slowly in this very complicated situation, you know, the U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson just recently visited Moscow, and he met with Russia's top officials. And he kind of gave Russia a choice here. He said align with Assad or with the West. So what do you make of that? I mean, are ultimatums like this productive?
I hope that's not what he really said. I think the message is, let us all, as an international community, align with the Syrian people for the long-term welfare of Syria and the region. And of course, the region includes even Europe due to the flow of refugees. It's a huge, complicated issue. It will not be solved by domestic political posturing, which the Trump administration has been guilty of, nor by playing proxy wars, which all sides have done. It's time to sit down, force the process into traditional diplomatic channels, which are slow, agonizingly slow, but at least they minimize the bloodshed while the process is going on.
Right, Brady Kiesling, former U.S. diplomat. Thanks so much for talking to us here on RT International.